And now it's time for a preview of an upcoming game by Tom Vasel.
Ooh, alchemy. All right, alchemy, changing lead to gold, never actually happened. A lot of people wish they could do it, but it certainly was something that was a big deal. Today we're taking a preview at a game called Chaos and Alchemy, where you actually can change lead into gold if your experiments turn out correctly. This is a sort of, well, I don't really know how to describe this game because it uses some mechanics that I've never seen in games before. Let me show you how it's played. As with all my previews, I want to point out that I'm showing a prototype copy here, and so it's not going to be what the final thing looks like. You know, there's some nice artworks on the cards that I'm going to be showing you, but the artwork for their actual game is phenomenal. You'll have to check out the Kickstarter site to see more of that. But I'm just here to show you how the game plays. Each player is going to start with one of these cards here, a success and failure card. You're going to get some dice to start the game with. You get these 3 black dice, and you also have this green, not a die, it's a cube basically, because it just automatically a success every time. There's going to be a fortune die involved in the game. It's set near a deck of chaos cards, which make up the meat of the game. And this cube starts as a 4, this fortune cube, but it could change to other than that. On your turn, you have to do an experiment. An experiment simply is rolling your dice. Each die that is equal to or higher than the fortune die is a success. Each die that's less is a failure. So you'll see here, I have 3 successes and 1 failure. I will take these success dice off, and as I do so, I can either play a card or draw a card for each one I take off. For each failure I then take off, I must discard a card from my hand. And that's it. But it's how you use those cards that make up the meat of the game. There are many different cards that you'll be able to play from your hand, but most of the cards are innovation cards. Now these cards are important because in the top corner are points, and these cards are worth points. The whole goal of this game is to get 10 points in front of you. If at the end of your turn you have 10 points in front of you, you have changed lead to gold, and huzzah. But when you play this card, it comes in your laboratory, choose an opponent. Each of you rolls your experiment dice. The highest total draws 2 cards while you win ties. Or perhaps this one. When this comes into your laboratory, move another card from your laboratory to an opponent's laboratory and then draw a card. You say, why would I want to move a card into someone else's library? Because there are cards that you can play into other people's laboratories which are bad. For example, this says whenever you get 2 or more failures from a single experiment, put a negative point on this card. This card starts with 1 negative point. So you would use a die to keep track of how many points this card took. You could see how this card get a lot of points. I would certainly like to give this card to somebody else. Or the King's Disfavor, which is -2. Or this card, which is only 0 points, but I can't play Rival or Misfortune cards. There are other cards that you can play that are action cards. Set the fortune die to any number that you wish. Or conduct an additional experiment this turn where you roll the dice. And so there's different cards, but and again, I like to go back to the innovation cards. There's some cards which are a lot of points, 3 points, but this card I can only play if the fortune die is 1. There are lots of these cards that let you mess with the fortune dice. There are some that let you add to the die. For example here, this mortar and pestle, when that's in front of you, whenever you experiment, you can choose a die and increase its roll result by 1. There are cards that let you change the fortune die. There are cards that let you give you extra dice, and you can, this one here gives you 1 extra die, and then you can ignore the result of a die. So there's all different sorts of cards that you can get. Here's one that just gives you 1 extra die total. And utilizing these cards to get, you know, the actions that you want. Now this isn't the only thing that can happen. If you roll 2 of the same number when you're rolling, it's chaos, and you must re-roll the fortune die. However, you can decide to take the result of the current fortune die and apply your dice to that, or you can take the result of the new one. And then there's also, if all your dice are re-rolled, you are all the same number, that's like super chaos, you lose your hand. And a double roll will let you take an extra turn if you get 2 sets of doubles. So the more dice that you have as a result of cards will give you more opportunities. Now, the game is going to take place at 10 points, like I said, but there are some variants. You can play a longer game to 15 points, or you can play that you have to pass the King's Test. Once you get to 10 points, you must then have an experiment where you have no failures, which would require you to have a pretty good combo of cards into play with a bit of luck. And that's basically how you play Chaos and Alchemy. It's for 2 to 5 players. First person to 10 points is the winner. At its heart, Chaos and Alchemy is kind of a take that game because you're playing good cards in yourself and bad cards in your others. But that's not just what it is. At its heart, Chaos and Alchemy is a dice rolling game as you roll dice and hope to get good results. High rolls are good. Ones are always a failure. It doesn't matter what the die and the fortune die is. You know, but that's not what the game is either. The game is really kind of an interesting mix because you're using these these cards to manipulate the dice that you roll so that you can re-roll a lot of successes, which lets you get cards out. You then use these cards to help yourself and hurt your opponent and mess with the dice. Games do not take long. I believe it says 15 to 45 minutes on the box here to play. I've found that most games are 15 to 20 minutes long. Yes, if you get into a back and forth war, they might take a little bit longer, but for the most point, you're going to get those cards out as quickly as you possibly can. It's a very interesting filler. Like I said, the artwork on the website is phenomenal, but I really enjoyed this back and forth action as we played the cards, and as you start with 3 dice that you're rolling, but hopefully you can get some more dice or be able to manipulate those dice, and that thrill of success when you get a complete successful experiment, or maybe when you do get a failure experiment, you say, okay, how can I mitigate this? What can I do to maybe clear my hand of cards so that those failures don't hurt me at all? So it's really a very interesting little light game that you can carry around, easy to get people into, and one with some unique mechanics that I really haven't seen before. If you're interested in backing this game, in just a moment we're going to show you a Kickstarter link for it, and you can get involved with that, maybe even get your artwork on one of the cards. So take a look. Here's Chaos and Alchemy.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.